Hey everyone, welcome back to my monthly movie review. It's November now, so here's everything I watched in October. I started the month by watching this really indie, pretty quirky, alt, an underground film. It's called Citizen Kane. You probably haven't heard of it, but it's the second time I've seen it ever, and I have to say it does get better on multiple watches. It's just about as entertaining a film as it is culturally significant and influential, It combines deep staging and deep focus to effectively bring the audience into the story by accentuating the three-dimensional space occupied by the characters. It was a far cry from the other more flat films of the time, and that's why a lot of people consider it really influential. Before Citizen Kane, though, most films thought they should have this hidden camera look where the audience shouldn't notice the camera at all. But Orson Welles recognized that audiences didn't mind noticing the camera movements and techniques because it ultimately led to a far more immersive movie-going experience. So that kind of ushered in the new era of filmmaking. Even though it isn't my favorite movie, there's no denying it's one of, if not the most influential and important films ever made. Then I watched the short film I Turned to Jello. After analyzing and reanalyzing this film, trying to figure out what it is, I still have no idea. It was just extremely awkward and embarrassing to watch, and it wasn't bad execution per se, I just didn't receive it very well. Then I saw Zodiac for the first time. I honestly didn't pay attention to the fact that it existed until the week I watched it. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, the actors were on point. They're probably my favorite part of it. I think it's easy to forget the sheer distance of time between portions of the movie, but I like how well it highlights that. A lot of people are going to hate me for this, but I'm not a big fan of David Fincher. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people are. A lot of people say I can get that his stuff's objectively good, but I don't know. It's just not my vibe. It was a great watch, but I wasn't really left thinking. And maybe it's in part because the Zodiac Killer was just figured out a week before I watched it. But I don't know. I still enjoyed it, especially Robert Downey Jr.'s part. Next, I rewatched Hubie Halloween. And I remember being really pleasantly surprised last year when it came out and enjoying it, even though everyone hated it. But the rewatch kind of made me realize how rough it was. It was really fun with the lovable cast and the heartwarming story, but I mean, obviously, they weren't going for objective quality here. Once it loses some of the nuance it comes with after seeing a bunch of familiar faces and wild scenes, it starts to lose some of its charm. However, I still would watch it again, next Halloween, that is. Then I watched Young Frankenstein, and this is one of those movies that I bet I could watch 1,000 times. I hadn't seen it before, but man, was it so funny. I mean, the best kind of comedy to me blurs the lines between ridiculous and serious, and this does that perfectly. The directing of Mel Brooks and the acting of Gene Wilder are fighting for the attention of the audience and turn it into something really beautiful. I rewatched Coraline, and it's good. Really, really good. The amount of sheer creativity in the head of Henry Selick and everyone else who worked on this is astounding. The world is really well defined, and it lures you in with its sometimes drab and sometimes fantastic beauty. The art direction is insane, and first time I saw this, I really didn't want to like it, but I really do now. All the characters are dynamic and serve to create this convoluted world really well. Then I rewatched Clue, which has to be one of my favorites of all time. It's extremely simple and extremely entertaining. I mean, the screenplay alone has to be some of the best writing I've ever seen, cleverly weaving goofy comedy into a murder mystery. The actors are all perfect at who they're portraying and play the dialogue and comedy extremely well. This will always be a near perfect and extremely rewatchable film for me. Then I went and watched The Last Duel, which is awesome. I mean, the whole thing has a real gritty but real clear look to it, which is perfect for the story. The way it's told from 3 different perspectives is really cool, and you'd think it would start to feel redundant, but it really doesn't, and makes for an interesting movie. Ben Affleck carries the comedic relief and spits some pretty hilarious lines. He steals every scene he's in. That being said, the acting from the 3 leads is insane, too. I mean, I think someone's got to get a nomination somewhere. Now, there was one scene that was shown a few times that probably made me the most uncomfortable I've ever been in a movie theater. But I think that was the goal, and I think apart from that, it was highly entertaining. Then I watched It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and it was fun and cute and a classic, and had a lot more jokes about suing people than I remember. Then I watched Bicycle Thieves, and it really surprised me. I mean, it's the clearest example of neo-realism in film, and it was made in post-World War II Italy and is centered around the country's broken economy and the all-too-common stories of its citizens trying to navigate it. It's basically Pursuit of Happiness before Pursuit of Happiness was a thing. The story's brilliant and heart-wrenching. There's a really cool scene where Antonia's wife is selling her sheets to a pawn shop, and you see the entire wall of sheets that other people have donated, and it really puts it into perspective, and it elaborates the scale of the story very well and shows how this kind of thing's not limited to Antonio and his son, and it was happening all over the place. This all leads up to an all-out heartbreaking ending. Not a lot of redemption, but I get why it has that hopeless feeling, as it was the sentiment of a lot of people at the time. Then I watched The French Dispatch, and it's only the second Wes Anderson movie I've ever seen. I gotta be honest, I hate to say it, but I'm starting to really like them. He perfectly executes staging and camera placement in every single scene. The all-star cast picks up whenever the story dips, which it hardly does, and each actor has their unique moments to shine. I can't even go as deep as I'd like into each of their performances, but Frances McDormand, Timothy Chalamet, and Jeffrey Wright's parts were definitely highlights. Wes Anderson's vibe is one that I'm new to, but I already know is some of the most entertaining and enrapturing filmmaking I've ever seen. Then finally on Halloween, I rewatched Fun Size, which is probably my favorite Halloween movie. It's the one I watch every year. It's a Nickelodeon movie, but just like Good Burger, don't let that fool you. The themes and emotions touched throughout this are real, and at points moving. It's honestly super underrated because it gives the impression of a bland teen Halloween movie, but I think the acting and a bit of the writing too saves it. The performances across the board are pretty good, and Thomas Middleditch honestly makes every scene he's in better and carries. There are lots of times I still laugh out loud while watching this, even though I see it every year. It's sweet and innocent, and really what a non-horror Halloween movie should be. So yeah, that was my month. Only really watched a few Halloween-y movies. I'm glad this was put out way quicker than last month, and hopefully I can get started on that Marvel video, and hopefully put it out sometime after Eternals comes out, which it already has at the time of recording this, and I still haven't seen it. So I can't make any promises, but we'll see. I hope you all truly have a good November, and I'll see you all in December. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.